I remember the way the fog rolled in that evening, thick and slow, curling around the trunks of the pine trees. My boots sank softly into the damp earth, each step swallowed by the silence that seemed almost alive. A pale light flickered far ahead, shifting like it had its own heartbeat, and I felt that low hum in my chest, the kind that presses against your bones and doesn't let go. Somewhere, a branch snapped, though I knew I had been alone for hours. The wind whispered between the leaves, and I thought I glimpsed a shadow, tall, watching, almost human, but not quite. I told myself it was a trick of the light, my imagination stretched by isolation. But when I blinked, it had moved. Closer. I froze, breath catching, and the world narrowed to that silent, waiting figure. That's when I saw it. The path was empty. Fog draped the trees, thick and wet, curling around the roots like smoke. A lantern swung ahead. Its light flickered, soft and uneven. I heard footsteps. They matched mine. Step, step, step. I turned. Nothing. Just a trail, disappearing into white haze. A shadow stretched in the dim glow, longer than it should be. Leaning toward me, I stepped forward. The air felt alive. Watching. Breathing. Leaves whispered above, brushing each other. Wind? Maybe, maybe not. The lantern swayed. A little too far to the left. Step. Another shadow. Behind me or maybe beside me. I couldn't tell. Every step I took, the fog seemed to thicken, swallowing the trail beneath my boots. Branches scraped softly against my jacket. Cold, deliberate. A warning or a guide. I blinked. The lantern moved. Or did I? It danced just out of reach, casting the forest in patchy light and darkness. The smell of damp earth rose, heavy. Faint smoke lingered, though no fire had burned. I slowed, careful not to hurry. Every noise echoed. My own heartbeat rattled in my ears. Then I heard it again. Footsteps. Closer. Softer. Not quite my own. I stopped. The trail ahead was empty. I reached out. Nothing but mist. The shadow beside me shifted. Wrong. Too quick. Too long. I could feel it. Watching. Waiting. A gust of cold air slipped through the trees. It carried something with it. Faint metallic, like the scent of rusted iron. I stepped forward again. The clearing appeared. Silent, pale under the fog. The lantern gone. Just emptiness. I froze. The fog pressed closer, quiet now, almost holding its breath. I thought I saw movement at the edges. A flicker, like someone blinking just beyond the mist. My hands tingled, cold and restless. Every instinct told me to run, but my feet wouldn't. The trail behind me, silent. The forest itself seemed paused, and I realized I was alone. Or maybe I never had been. The lantern was gone, but the feeling remained. A presence, watching, always there. I inhaled the damp, heavy air, exhaled. Only my breath stirred the fog. Step, forward, another, slowly. The clearing stretched before me, and I listened. The footsteps had stopped, but the shadow lingered, just beyond the edge of light, waiting. The trees leaned close. Fog curled between the trunks, thick enough to taste. Soft voices drifted. My name, almost familiar, but wrong. A little stretched, a little hollow. I stopped. They paused too, then shifted. Shapes flickered. Thin, tall, impossible to focus on. Between the trunks, just at the corner of my eyes. I called out, nothing but the mist swallowing my words. Step by step I moved. The voices followed, repeating, twisting, echoing my name with subtle mockery. The path beneath my feet, unfamiliar. Every turn felt like the last. Every shadow moved differently than before. The fog carried the smell of wet pine. And something else. Metal. Faint, sour. Leaves rustled softly. Not from wind, but from some quiet motion beyond sight. I tried to keep my steps light. But each time I blinked, the shapes drifted closer. The air hummed with something almost alive. I realized then I had been walking in circles. The voices whispered again, now clearer, now urgent, repeating my thoughts as much as my name. My heart thumped unevenly. The forest seemed endless. Time stretched, bending around me. A shadow passed just beyond the fog. Not quite human, not quite tree. I followed it, though I knew better. Every step, a rustle behind me. Every breath, a chill crawling across my neck. The fog thickened, curling into shapes. Human, then twisted. They mimicked me. Moved when I moved. Stopped when I stopped. I whispered my own name aloud. The fog answered. It sounded like me, but distant. Wrong. I wanted to run, but my feet felt heavy. The path seemed to shift beneath my weight, leading me nowhere. Branches clawed at my jacket, soft, almost teasing. A faint light peeked ahead, but it offered no comfort. The shadows lingered in the corners. Waiting, breathing. I froze. The voices stopped. For a heartbeat. Silence. Then the whispers returned. Closer. Inside my mind now, not just the forest. I felt them circling. Shapes flickering. Fingers of fog brushing against my arms. The trail gone. Only mist. Only whispers repeating my name. And I realized I had no way out. No path forward. No path back. Only the forest. And the shapes. And the soft, persistent calling of my own name. Step. Another. And the whispers followed. I moved, though I could feel the forest watching. Every turn, every pause, answered by unseen eyes. And I understood I was not alone. I never had been. The trail narrowed. Branches reached across the path, scraping my shoulders. Fog clung to my boots. Damp cold. Then I heard it. Boot steps. Behind me. Soft at first. Careful. Matching my pace. I quickened mine. So did they. Every step I took echoed, and then some. Shadows bent unnaturally, leaning toward me, stretching beyond reason. I dared not turn. My heart thumped too loud. Each beat answered by the forest itself. Leaves whispered above, rustled beside me. Breathing? Not wind. Not mine. I tried to shake the thought. I was alone. Step by step, the footsteps followed. Close. Soft. Persistent. A branch snapped behind me. I froze. Nothing moved. Yet the rhythm of boots continued. The fog grew thicker. It wrapped around my legs. Clinging. Watching. Shadows on the trail flickered. Longer than mine. Independent. Moving in ways I shouldn't be able to. Every instinct screamed to run. But the forest seemed to hold me in place. I swallowed hard. The damp air filled my lungs. My heartbeat rattled in my chest. Step, step, step. The footsteps behind, matching mine. I tried calling out. No sound left my throat. Only the echo of my own fear in the mist. The path curved. Shadows twisted along it. I could feel them leaning closer. Cold air brushed my neck. Faint, almost deliberate. I shivered. I kept walking. Hoping they would vanish. But the steps stayed. Unyielding. Silent, but certain. I glanced toward the fog ahead. Light flickered. Or maybe it was a shadow. I couldn't tell. The forest seemed alive. Watching. Measuring. Waiting. I didn't dare look behind. But I could feel it there. Following. Always following. Step. Another. My own boots in rhythm with theirs. Each echo stretching unnaturally into the mist. I realized it wasn't just the footsteps. It was the forest. It bent toward me, guiding, containing. I swallowed again, cold, dry, and pressed forward. Every step a small surrender. Every breath loud in the silence. The shadows stayed. The footsteps stayed. And I knew I could not escape. Not yet. The trail curved sharply. Fog pooled in the bend like water. A pale figure shimmered in the mist. It was thin, almost fragile, its outline blurred, flickering like candlelight. I stepped closer. It vanished. The air changed. Heavy, static, like the forest itself held a charge. I shivered. Something brushed past my shoulder. Soft, unseen, almost intimate. Curiosity pricked at me, a mix of fear and wonder. I wanted to follow, but my skin tingled with warning. The path ahead seemed to breathe. Roots curled along the trail, pulsating faintly. Shadows stretched and bent unnaturally around the bend. I whisper my own name. The fog answered with silence. Another step. The figure reappeared. Faint, pale, impossible to focus on. It didn't move like a person. Or maybe it did, just not in the way I understood. A low hum rose from the ground, barely audible, vibrating through the soles of my boots. The forest felt alive, pressing in from every side, every tree watching, every root twitching. I tried to steady my breath. Step, another, slowly. The figure shimmered again, then dissolved into mist. I reached out, fingers brushed empty air, and still the pull persisted, the soft insistence of something unseen, urging me forward. A gust stirred the fog, carrying a faint scent, iron and wet leaves. I stepped back, heart pounding. Yet, the curiosity, it pulled me forward. Every instinct screamed, leave, but every sense whispered, follow. The trail disappeared slightly beneath my feet, fog curling over roots, shadows pulling around tree trunks. I took another step. The pale figure flickered once more, then vanished. The forest waited. The air hummed faintly. I felt both terrified and compelled. Step, another, and I followed the bend. The fog thickened. It curled around roots and rocks, coiling like smoke. I stepped lightly. The shapes formed in the mist, vague, human, but wrong. They mimicked me, every motion, every breath, closer with each inhale. I froze. The trail beneath my feet vanished. Leaves whispered overhead. Branches brushed my arms. Cold, almost sentient, the shapes shifted. They weren't static. They leaned forward, swaying like smoke caught in a draft. I moved backward. They mirrored me. Closer, closer. The fog smelled damp, faintly of earth and decay. A metallic edge lingered just beneath. I blinked. The shapes dissolved, then reformed, twisting into something taller, thinner, watching. The trail I had been following disappeared entirely. Roots and stones emerged beneath the haze. But they were unfamiliar, wrong. Step by step, the forest seemed to pulse around me. A rhythm I couldn't name. A heartbeat that wasn't mine. The mist pressed against my legs. Soft, cool, relentless. I heard a faint rustle. Not from wind, not from leaves. Something alive in the fog. I wanted to turn back, but the path had been erased. The trail no longer existed. Shapes swirled around me, echoing my movements, hovering just at the edge of sight. I whispered. Nothing but the fog answered. A low hum rose, vibrating through the roots beneath me. Step, another, slowly, each step swallowed by the mist. I felt the forest watching. Shadows curling, shifting, stretching. The shapes followed, not threatening, not friendly, but present, persistent. The trail had disappeared, and I was left with only the mist and the shapes and the soft, unrelenting pull forward. I took another step, and the fog moved with me. I came upon a campsite, empty, silent. A fire smoldered faintly. Smoke twisted upward and thin, curling tendrils. Tents sagged under the weight of fog. Shadows stretched long across the canvas, bending like living things. The smell of wet earth mixed with something sharp, lingering smoke, or maybe something else. I stepped closer. The ground beneath my boots was soft, damp. Every movement stirred faint whispers from the trees. A hum rose from the soil itself, wrapping around the trunks. Branches brushed above my head. Soft, deliberate, almost like fingers tracing the air. I moved past the fire. The smoke seemed to swirl toward me, carrying faint warmth. And then a sigh, low, hollow, as if someone or something had left in a hurry. The tents were empty, the ground disturbed, marks in the dirt, half-formed shapes, or shadows. I couldn't tell. The hum rose again, faint but insistent. I held my breath. The forest pressed in, watching, waiting. A flicker in the corner of my eye. Shadows twisting, reaching, then gone. The air was thick with silence, heavy, expectant, and regret. Step by step, I moved through the campsite. Each footfall soft, careful. The fog curling around my legs. The fire crackled faintly, though no one was near. Shadows stretched toward it, then recoiled, bending as though alive. I stopped, listening, breathing. Nothing moved. Nothing spoke. Yet everything felt present. The forest held its breath. The campsite waited. I felt a pull to move on. And yet something lingered. A memory, a presence, something left behind. Step, forward, another. Slowly, the hum faded. The shadows softened. But the sense of being watched remained. And I realized the forest had claimed this place. Even in silence, even in absence, something watched me. From the treeline, pale, unblinking eyes reflected the faint light of the fog. I felt their gaze before I saw them, pressing against my back, clinging to every movement. Step by step, I moved forward. The eyes shifted, closer, just beyond clarity. Branches brushed my arms. Cold, wet, deliberate. Every time I blinked, the eyes had moved, closer, leaning from shadows that didn't belong. The forest had become a labyrinth, a maze of darkness and pale stare. I whispered. My voice trembled. No answer, only the echo of my own breath. The fog curled around me, thick, damp, pressing into my clothes. Every footstep softened, swallowed, rustling behind. Leaves, or something else. Mirroring my pace, the eyes multiplied, blinking in unison, reflecting faint glimmers of light, always just at the edge of sight. I froze, held my breath. The silence deepened, heavier than the fog. A low hum rose, not loud but insistent, through the ground, through the roots, through my chest. Step by careful step, I moved. The eyes followed, shifting, tracking, waiting. I couldn't see the forest floor clearly anymore. Shadows pooled in every hollow. The trees bent inward, watching, breathing. Every blink made the eyes closer, sharper, more certain. Every breath trembled in my chest. And I realized I was not alone, not in the way I had thought before. The forest had always been full of watchers, silent, patient, endless. Step, another, slowly. The eyes faded slightly as the fog thickened, but their presence lingered, always near, always observing. My shadow stretched across the path, but there was another, moving independently, not quite mine, mirroring me, then bending toward me. The trees leaned in, watching. The fog wrapped my boots, soft and cold. Branches brushed my arms, deliberate. Every step I took, the shadow followed, stretching, twisting, shifting closer. I stopped. It paused too, like breathing, like thinking. Leaves rustled around me, soft, unnatural, echoing footsteps I didn't take. I blinked. The shadow moved faster than I could, stretching into the fog, reaching toward me. The forest had changed. The trail I had walked felt wrong. Or perhaps it was the trail walking me. Every turn I took, the shadow anticipated. Every pause, it leaned in, always present, always patient. I whispered my own name. The shadow bent closer. It didn't speak. It didn't breathe. It only existed, waiting. The fog thickened, curling around roots, pooling in the hollow shadows in the trees, merged with the one following me. I shivered. Cold air slipped along my neck. The faint metallic scent of something unseen lingered. I moved again, step by careful step. The shadow matched me perfectly, then distorted slightly. A reminder, it was not me. The forest pressed inward, watching, breathing, waiting for me to notice the rhythm. I realized I was not walking the trail. The trail was walking me. Step, another, slowly, each step swallowed by fog, each shadow leaning closer. And still it followed, always, patient, silent. Leaves rustled behind me, soft, deliberate. Each step I took mirrored, not by my own shadow, something else. I tried to tell myself it was the wind, but the rustling followed me, closer, matching my pace. Shapes flickered in the fog, Tall, thin, indistinct. Always at the edge of my vision. Every time I faced them, gone. Breathing. It sounded like mine. Yet not mine. Sinking, soft, patient. The trail twisted beneath my boots. Roots shifted beneath the mist. The forest seemed to lean in, watching, breathing. I whispered. Nothing answered except my own uneven heartbeat. The rustling grew, rising from the underbrush. Fingers of cold fog brushed my arms. A metallic tang in the damp air. I stopped. It stopped too, like a reflection of motion I couldn't see. Step by careful step, I moved forward. The companion persistent. Unseen but present. The fog thickened, curled around my legs. Swallowed the path. The forest became a maze of soft noises and shifting shadows. I wondered if I had ever been alone. If I ever could be. The rustling followed. Soft, patient, a constant rhythm beneath the whispering trees. Branches clawed at my jacket, deliberate, almost guiding me. Every sense alert, every nerve straining. Step, another, slowly. Every breath loud in the quiet. The companion remained, watching, following, a presence I could not see. And I realized I was not walking through the forest. I was walking with it. The trees opened suddenly. A clearing. Pale light spilling across damp grass. Silent. No rustle of leaves. No whisper of wind. Only my own boots pressing against the soft earth. Shadows gathered at the edges. Waiting. Patient. Silent. Every step I took echoed. Too loud. Bouncing off invisible walls of fog. The air was thick. Cold, damp, heavy. Holding its breath. I froze. The forest seemed to pause with me. Every branch, every root, every shadow, still watching. A distant rustle, faint, like someone moving behind the trees. But nothing appeared. The ground smelled of damp moss. And something older, metallic, faint, a memory of fire long gone. I took a cautious step forward. Shadows at the clearing's edge seemed to lean closer, stretching toward me. Then recoiling, the fog curled around my legs. Soft, deliberate, almost sentient. I whispered. No answer. A bird might have called, or maybe a whisper of the wind. The clearing held it all, and nothing. Every sound I made seemed amplified. Every breath, loud in the quiet. I realized then, the forest itself was holding its breath, waiting, watching, and I was the only thing moving within it. Step, another. Slowly, the silence pressed in, wrapping around me, and I understood I was utterly alone, yet surrounded by everything and nothing. A soft laugh drifted through the trees, childlike, faint. It echoed between trunks, twisting in the fog. No wind stirred. No figure appeared. Shapes darted through the mist. Small, quick, indistinct, never fully visible. Always just at the corner of my eyes. I froze. The laughter faded, leaving a cold emptiness. The forest pressed in, silent, heavy, watching. Leaves rustled behind me. Or maybe it was something else, matching my footsteps or mocking them. The fog carried a faint smell of damp earth and something sweet, almost like a memory, almost like a trap. I whisper my own name. No answer, only the echo of my breath in the hollow silence. I turned slowly. Shadows stretched along the trunks, leaning, flickering, and then gone. The laughter lingered in my mind, a soft, haunting memory. I felt watched, unsettled, alone. The clearing seemed smaller, the fog closer, the air thick with something unseen. Step, another, slowly. Every movement careful, deliberate. The forest held its secrets tight. And I realized I could hear them, I could feel them, but I would never see them fully. Faint laughter, fading, a reminder of something lost, or something waiting. And I moved on. A narrow bridge appeared over a shallow creek. Mist curled above it, thick, dense, obscuring the far side completely. Shadows flickered beneath the railing, too quick to follow, too deliberate to ignore. Each plank groaned under my weight, softly, uneasily, echoing into the fog. I stepped forward, Halfway across, the sound came. Footsteps. Behind me, I wasn't alone. Not really. The fog pressed against my boots. Cold, damp, unrelenting. I tried to see through the mist. Nothing. Only the pale reflection of moonlight on wet wood. Branches arched above, rustling softly, or whispering. The footsteps continued, matching my pace, closer than they should be. Yet when I dared to look, nothing. A faint metallic tang in the air, like something forgotten, old and sharp. I held my breath. The bridge seemed endless, the fog endless. Shadows shifted beneath the railing, stretching, curling like smoke, almost alive. Step by careful step, I moved forward. The unseen presence kept pace. Patient, watching. I whispered my own name. The fog swallowed it, only the planks groaning in reply. Halfway across, I realized the bridge wasn't just a crossing. It was a test. Silent, cold, observing. Step, another, slowly. The mist wrapped around me. The shadows stretched, and I felt it. I was being followed by something unseen, by something patient. The far side of the bridge, still hidden in white, waiting. The familiar path disappeared. Fog thickened, curling between the trunks. Trees twisted into shapes I didn't recognize. I called my own name. It came back to me, distorted, echoing through the mist, longer than it should. The trail shifted beneath my boots. Every step felt wrong, guided me somewhere I could not see. Branches brushed my arms. Cold, wet, deliberate. The forest leaned closer, watching. I turned, trying to find something familiar. Nothing. Only the fog. Only twisted shadows. A faint rustle behind me. Leaves brushing against each other, or footsteps mimicking my own. The mist pressed against my chest. Thick, almost solid, wrapping the trail in white silence. I whispered. The forest answered with echoes. Not my voice exactly. Something else, distant but familiar. Shapes moved just beyond my vision. Tall, thin, shifting. They mirrored me, yet they were not me. I stumbled. The ground beneath seemed to twist. Roots rising where none had been. Stones forming shapes that weren't there before. Panic set in. My breath caught in my chest. The fog swirled faster, responding. Every movement tracked. The trail wasn't just gone. It was gone with intent. Leading me, guiding me. Somewhere I could not follow with my eyes. Step. Another. Slowly. I felt the forest bend around me, pushing me forward, testing me, and I realized the trail I thought I knew had vanished entirely, leaving only fog, shadows, and the echo of my own voice. A low hum vibrated through the forest, soft at first, almost comforting, then louder, insistent. Shadows shifted against it, twisting unnaturally along the trunks, bending toward me, watching. I stepped forward. The hum rose, vibrating through the roots beneath my boots. Through the air, through my chest, branches brushed my arms. Cold, deliberate, leaves whispered against each other. Or perhaps something else. I reached out to touch a tree. Its bark was wet, pulsing faintly. The humming stopped, leaving ringing silence in its place. I froze. The forest seemed to exhale. Every shadow paused mid-shift. Every root held its tension. I whispered my own name. The fog swallowed it, echoed nothing back. Shapes lingered just beyond sight. Tall, thin, leaning, watching, waiting. The hum returned faintly, rippling through the mist, through the trunks, through the soil. I moved carefully, step by slow step, the fog curling around my boots, wrapping me in silence. The forest had a heartbeat, and I could feel it, not in my chest, but in the ground beneath. Every sense alert, every nerve stretched tight. Step, another, slowly. The shadows shifted slightly. The hum lingered faintly, and I realized I was utterly alone, yet entirely surrounded by the forest itself. A massive tree loomed ahead. No wind stirred, yet it swayed, slow, deliberate. Its bark pulsed, like skin, breathing, alive. Shadows flickered across its surface, stretching, bending, almost moving toward me. I stepped back, heart pounding, uneasy, roots twisted over the trail, curling like veins. The air smelled of damp earth and something older, metallic, sharp, faintly sweet. I reached out. The bark seemed to respond, shivering under my fingers. A hum rose from the ground, soft, deep, vibrating through my boots, through my chest. I swallowed hard. Step by cautious step, I retreated. Yet a part of me wanted to stay, to watch, to feel it breathe. The fog wrapped around the roots, thick, curling, deliberate. Branches arched overhead, whispering softly in the silent forest. I realized I was being observed, not just by the tree, but by the shadows it cast. Leaning, twisting, waiting. Step, another, slowly. The forest pulsed with life I could not see. The trees breathed slow, steady, watching me in return. I shivered. Curiosity battled with fear. The tree had claimed this part of the trail, and I was intruding. Step, another. I left the tree behind, its presence lingering, watching, breathing, even as the fog swallowed it from view. Between two large oaks, a path appeared, overgrown, hidden, yet inviting. Mist curled along the roots. Shadows shifted just beyond sight, soft, subtle movements. I stepped onto it. The forest seemed to lean closer, watching my every motion. The air was damp, heavy, with the scent of wet leaves, faintly metallic, like iron left out in the rain. Shapes flitted along the edges of the trail, tall, thin, impossible to focus on, always just out of clarity. Each step felt wrong, unsteady, uncertain, yet irresistible. Branches brushed my arms, cold, deliberate. The fog clung to my boots, wrapping around the path. I whispered, no answer, only the soft rustle of leaves. Or maybe something else. The path twisted beneath my feet. Roots rose where none had been before. Shadows pooled in hollows. I felt the pull again. Curiosity pressing against caution. Something unseen moving just beyond focus. Step by careful step, I followed, the footpath winding, narrow, leading me deeper into the unknown. The mist thickened, curling around roots, pooling along trunks, every motion mirrored by shadows. I realized the path had been hidden for a reason, yet it had chosen to reveal itself, and I could not resist. Step, another, slowly. The forest whispered approval, or warning, I could not tell, and I moved forward, drawn into the footpath that was forgotten, yet alive. Roots twisted over the trail like veins. Soft whispers rose from the ground itself, repeating thoughts I barely admitted to myself. Shadows stretched along the roots, mimicking human forms. Tall, thin, impossible to ignore. I stepped lightly, every motion measured, every breath careful. The air was damp, heavy. A faint metallic tang lingered. The forest exhaled around me. The whispers grew louder, not threatening, but insistent. Soft words curling around my ankles, crawling up my boots. Shapes flickered just beyond the mist, moving with me, but never fully visible, always in the corner of my eyes. Step, another, slowly. Roots coiled beneath my feet, twisting, curling, almost alive. I reached out, touching the bark of a nearby tree. The whispers surged, then receded, like the forest had noticed me, acknowledged me. Branches arched above, rustling softly. The fog wrapped around me tighter. Every step I took felt guided, every shadow leaning closer, waiting, watching. I realized the forest was speaking, through roots, through fog, through shadows, repeating thoughts I could not escape. Step, another, slowly. The whispers softened, yet their presence remained, patient, eternal, and I moved forward, through the roots, through the whispers, through the forest that knew my every thought. A small lake appeared, pale under the moonlight, mist curled above its surface. Still, quiet, almost sacred, shadows rippled across the water like living ink, dark shapes moving without wind, without disturbance. I saw it, A figure crossing the lake. Feet never touching the water. Silent. Impossible. My reflection stared back. Alone. Yet not. The air was damp, cold, heavy with the scent of wet stone and pine. Each breath I took felt mirrored by the fog itself. I stepped closer. The shadows shifted beneath the surface. Curling. Stretching. Leaning toward me. Leaves rustled softly behind me. Branches brushing in a rhythm I did not recognize. The forest itself seemed to pulse in response to the lake. I whispered. No answer. Only ripples in the water. Echoes of shapes too swift, too thin to hold. Step by careful step, I approached the shore. The figure paused, and I realized it was watching me, not just across the lake, but in me. My reflection twitched. Shadows mirrored movements I did not make. Every blink made the figure nearer, yet unreachable. The fog thickened, curling along the water. Mist rose from the lake, brushing my boots. Soft, cold, persistent. Step, another. Slowly, the figure moved in tandem with shadows. Neither threatening nor friendly, just present. And I understood I was not alone. Not on the trail, not at the lake, and not in my own reflection. The forest held a shadow, and the shadow held me. The cabin appeared suddenly, abandoned, silent, yet humming softly, a low, persistent vibration that pressed against my chest. The door creaked as though opening by itself. Shadows pooled in the corners, shifting with the sound. The air smelled of damp wood and something older hidden beneath the pine scent, faintly metallic, faintly sweet. I stepped closer. The floorboards groaned beneath my boots. The hum rose in response, vibrating through the walls, the trees, the ground. Shadows twisted at the edges of my vision, leaning toward me, receding when I faced them directly. The door swung slowly, not with wind, not with weight, but deliberate, insistent. I whispered my own name. The cabin answered with silence, and the hum, low, persistent, almost alive. I felt an inexplicable pull, a need to follow the sound, to move closer, to step inside. The fog outside pressed against the walls, cold and damp, curling under the eaves. The forest waiting silently beyond the threshold. I hesitated. Curiosity battled fear. The hum seemed to beckon, patient, endless. Step, another, slowly. The shadows shifted with each motion, the hum resonating deeper in my chest. And I realized the cabin was alive in its own way, not just walls and wood, but presence, watching, pulling, waiting. I stepped closer. The hum rose, and the forest held its breath. I reached the fire, still burning, though no one was there. Shadows circled the flames, thin, elongated, stretching across the damp earth. Every step closer warped the fire, light bending in impossible ways, casting reflections that didn't belong. I blinked. When my eyes opened, everything was gone. The fire, the shadows, the warmth. The fog pressed against my boots. Cold, damp, relentless. Branches scraped softly overhead. The faint smell of smoke lingered, but no ash, no ember, nothing remained. I whispered my own name. The forest answered only with silence. The trail behind me vanished. The trees leaned in, patient, still, watching me. Step by careful step, I moved forward, the air heavy with absence, the echoes of what had been and what had never been. I realized even the fire had been a trick, a presence testing me, a shadow of warmth in a world of fog and silence. Step, another, slowly. The forest swallowed the space where the fire had been, shadows pooling along the edges of trees. And I understood I was utterly alone, yet the forest remembered the fire, and I did too. A tall shadow moved through pines, just at the edge of sight, slender, upright, unyielding. It paused when I stopped, advanced when I retreated. The forest whispered with every movement. Branches scraped my arms. Soft, deliberate. The air smelled of wet pine and something faintly metallic. I tried to keep my steps light, each motion mirrored by the shadow. Every footfall answered by the rustling of unseen leaves. The mist wrapped around the trunks. Thick, curling, pressing close. The forest leaned toward me, watching. I whispered my name. The shadow did not answer, only observed. Silent, patient. Step by slow step, I moved forward. The shadow matched me perfectly, then stretched slightly, then bent toward me. A low hum rose from the earth, vibrating through roots and soil. Through my chest, I shivered. The forest pressed in, enclosing me. Every tree a sentinel, every root a barrier. Step, another, slowly. The shadow moved closer, not threatening, not friendly, just present. And I realized the forest was alive, and the watcher had always been here, waiting, observing, patient. A ridge emerged ahead, covered in thick fog, soft, curling, almost alive. Shapes drifted above it, like smoke, imitating every movement I made. I froze, every gesture mirrored, every step tracked. Branches brushed my arms. Cold, damp, deliberate. The forest leaned closer, watching. I whispered. No answer, only the soft rustle of leaves. The figures moved with me, perfectly, not threatening, not friendly, just present. The fog wrapped around my legs, clinging, heavy, persistent. The trail beneath my boots seemed to shift. Step by careful step, I climbed. The shapes above stretched, swaying with the ridge. Every blink, they moved closer. I realized I could not tell who was leading, or who was following. The ridge, the fog, the shapes, all were entwined with my motion. A low hum rose from the earth, through roots, through soil, through fog, vibrating softly beneath me. Step, another, slowly. The forest held its breath. The figures drifted, silent, patient, waiting, watching. And I understood I was not in control. The fog led me. The shapes followed. And I was caught between them. A hollow appeared between the trunks. Shadows pooled inside. Deep, black, endless. Two pale eyes stared back, blinking in unison with me. I froze. My pulse echoed in the darkness. Every breath loud. Every heartbeat certain. The air smelled of damp earth and decay. Cold mist clung to my boots, curling around roots. I whispered. No answer, only the faint rustle of unseen leaves. Step by careful step, I moved closer. The eyes didn't shift. They waited, patient, silent. Branches arched overhead. Shadows stretched across the hollow. Leaning toward me, a low hum rose beneath the soil, vibrating through the mist, through the roots, through me. I tried to look away, but my gaze returned. The eyes mirrored me, watching, understanding. The hollow seemed alive, breathing softly, curling around me, pulling me in. Step, another, slowly. The forest pressed closer. The fog thickened, every shadow leaning, twisting. And I realized I was not alone, not in the hollow, not in the forest, and not in my own reflection. The pale eyes waited, always, patient, eternal. A door appeared against a tree. I hadn't seen it before. Smooth wood, dark and polished. The fog curled around its edges. It whispered, soft, almost imperceptible, calling me. I hesitated. Curiosity prickled against fear. The forest held its breath. I reached out. The surface pulsed beneath my fingers. Alive, warm. Branches arched above, brushing softly. Leaves rustled like distant whispers. The scent of wet pine mixed with something faintly metallic. I stepped closer. The door seemed to breathe with me, expanding and contracting softly. The fog shifted, twisting around roots and trunks. The trail behind me disappeared. I whispered my own name. The door pulsed again. Not threatening, not friendly, just present. Step by careful step, I touched it again. The pulsing echoed through my chest, through my boots, through the fog itself. I realized this door had not been there before, yet it had always existed, waiting, patient, silent. Step, another, slowly. The forest leaned closer. Shadows pulled at the edges of my vision, and I understood it was not just a door. It was a presence, something alive, calling, waiting. I returned to where I had started. The fog was thicker, shadows longer, stretching across the trail, like waiting fingers. One remained, watching. My own shadow bent strangely toward it, not quite aligned, not quite mine. The air was damp, heavy. Cold seeped into my boots, curling up my legs. The faint metallic scent lingered in the fog. I stepped forward. The watcher remained still, patient, silent, unmoving yet alive. Branches brushed softly overhead. Leaves whispered against one another, or perhaps the forest whispered around me. I realized it had always been here, waiting, present in every shadow, every flicker of fog. Step by careful step, I moved through the trail. The fog clung to my skin. The shadows pulled along the edges of trees. The watcher did not follow, nor did it recede. It simply stayed, a constant presence. I whisper my name. No reply, only the quiet acknowledgement of its existence. Step, another, slowly. I understood then, some shadows do not move. They remain, silent, patient, ever present. And I moved on, leaving the shadow behind, though I knew it would always stay.